Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about IT modernization, transformation. Parth, we're going to go to you and talk about Databricks and how that fits into this ecosystem and how it's being used in these agencies.
Yeah, let me start by saying how it's a pleasure being on this panel with these esteemed folks. And what we are seeing as far as modernization is concerned, I want to focus in on what I would call the data estate modernization. What Juan talked about with the digitization effort, what Guy is talking about with building the systems in the cloud, and what Patrick is doing with systems at Social Security. All of that is generating a ton of data. Even some of the initiatives that you have talked about, whether it's Zero Trust, whether it's M2131, whether it's the data-driven initiatives, whether it's DoD decrees, the focus is becoming how are the government agencies going to utilize the data and derive insights from it to drive mission outcomes, to drive national security, to drive citizen outcomes. And what we are seeing across the board is there's a ton of challenges, and it comes from sort of the legacy infrastructure that exists. There's siloed data. The data is primarily structured. There's a treasure trove of data, as Juan said. There's treasure trove of data in documents that need to be digitized, in the images that exist, in the geospatial data that exists. And the government agencies are looking to drive to use all of these data sets and produce outcomes from it. These issues are being addressed now, and we are seeing a spectrum of progress across the agencies that we are supporting today. Some of them are just starting on this data estate modernization journey. Others are more mature. For example, at Citizenship and Immigration Services, they've been at it for about 5-6 years. They've modernized in the cloud. They're using Databricks with the Lakehouse architecture, moving all of their traditional database systems into the cloud. And they've modernized how immigration and the visa system operates. So we are seeing a lot of progress in this regard. We are super excited. And I think Databricks is ripe for the innovation that the government is looking to make.
Yeah, no question. We're seeing that once you get this data into these sort of lake environments, if you will, you can really unlock some extensive capability to deliver on that promise. Guy, going to come over to you and talk about a specific program that you'd like to highlight that you all were able to sort of get over the fence, if you will. And then we'll talk about the future a little bit later in the show, but talk about one that you've already sort of nailed down.
Oh, sure. No, thank you, Luke. One thing I've learned with the cloud, especially for people that are still believing the cloud is way off in the future, is you want to have a success early and prove the value of the cloud. So when I got to OPM, I discovered that our retirement services call center, which is used to support all of our federal retirees, postal retirees, was I can't even put a name on it. It was so poorly designed that a phone call would bounce back and forth between multiple single points of failure. And there was a lot of downtime. And we were called to Capitol Hill to explain that. And I said, well, here's a great application for the cloud. Let's replace it with a cloud-based call center. And Luke, I can tell you, we've had less downtime with our cloud-based call center over 1.5 years than we had in a single half day with the old on-premises call center. Mm-hmm. So also with today's hybrid world of work, by using the cloud, I no longer have to put all of the call center people into a very compact room. They can work anywhere in the country, and which expands our hiring capabilities. So that one allowed me to show the agency that, hey, the cloud can really deliver. The cost is about the same. Again, one thing I recommend to people is don't go sell the cloud as it's going to save you money. Sell it for all the benefits of redundancy, elasticity, the things that you can't do or you're probably not doing on premise. That's really what you pick up with it. So, our retirees today are not being dropped by calling our call center like they used to be. And I said that gave me a quick win for the cloud to help reinforce the other moves that we want to make to the cloud.
No doubt increases the reliability and also increases the feature set a lot of times, right? When you get yourself in those modern type environments, which is a great example of the use of this modern technology. Michael, how about at Verizon? Can you give us an example of where you've been working with an agency to sort of, really enable this transformation to happen?
Yes, Luke. Thank you for coming back to me on this question. So we've seen a lot of our government partners develop successful IT modernization programs. I've got maybe 3 examples, just really short ones that give you a sense of how we played in this space. For the Department of Energy, we're delivering new technologies and services to help meet their next generation voice requirements. And this involves moving IP-enabled voice services to the forefront of what they're doing. So that's been a pretty good program for us. With the Department of Labor, we're modernizing their legacy network infrastructure, including data and voice and unified communications, video services, and all those enterprise applications for 20,000 users. So you think about that, that's going to result in a highly secure converged data and voice network across 1,000 locations. So that's been pretty exciting. And then on our SLED side of the house, the city of Albuquerque, right? We deployed a real-time crime center in partnership with our Verizon Frontline, which is, I'd say, the nation's best network for government folks to use, a cloud-based real-time response system for them to use there. So, we think those 3 examples kind of show the breadth of what Verizon has done with a lot of the government partners out there.
Right. And I think you pointed it out, the breadth of what you're doing, right? It's not just sort of the plumbing, it's much more than that. Vaughn, you touched on a lot of things that you are up to over there. I'd love to hear about a specific program that you'd like to highlight that you've been able to sort of get over the fence that's really sort of unlocked a lot of that capability over there that you all have been seeking.
Yeah, so we've been doing, just like Guy talked about, cloud and some of the things that they've been working on with him. We've been focused on cloud as well. And a lot of it's partnership across the agency and working with our business stakeholders. We don't do things in a vacuum. We partner across the agency. One of the things that we did last year is we looked, because our agency is a regulatory agency, we actually receive a lot of data from outside the agency. And a lot of that, those data flow through our central data exchange. That was an infrastructure that was within one of our data centers. Over FY22, the team in our office was able to actually take 184 different data flows and move those to the cloud and shut down the on-premise infrastructure within our National Computer Center. That just highlights, the rapid pace of change within the agency. The other thing that I highlight, and it goes to the term IT modernization, we look at modernization as continuous modernization. And so we are always looking at opportunities within our portfolio of what can we focus on next? How can we reduce the churn, if you will, associated with simple things, how employees get administrative forms processed, right? So other big areas we're looking at is the whole paperless initiative, right? And so we've been focused on identifying platforms by which we can move from a paper-based or a PDF-based way of managing workflow into a workflow system to reduce the churn associated with the administrative burden we put on employees to get their jobs done, right? We want to move that churn away from them so they can spend more time doing their mission work.
Really focus on that very important mission that you have there. And I might say nothing feels better than to close down a legacy data center, doesn't it? I mean, it really does feel good. Parth, how about at Databricks? Can you give us an example? You touched on some. As these various agencies are modernizing, no question, here comes the use of technology like Databricks. Give us an example of a highlight you'd like to point out.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of examples to pick from, whether, like I said, citizenship and immigration services, or it's fraud prevention at Medicare and Medicare services, or it's veteran suicide prevention at Veterans Affairs, or the DoD Advana program, where they're collecting all of the data across all 3 services and driving insights from it, or it's Office of Personnel Management, where they're trying to collect data from, coming in from various agencies around HR, curating it and sharing it back out for folks to drive insights from it. But one specific example that we are really proud of and would love to talk about here is Centers for Disease Control. This is one of those situations that impacted everyone on this panel and everyone listening. We started working with the CDC back in fall of 2020 when the vaccine rollout was just about to start. And what CDC had to do was go from this sort of on-prem mentality with legacy infrastructure to what Guy talked about, moving to the cloud and harnessing the agility of the cloud. And they truly needed to become agile, right? The emergency started with tracking the infections. It moved on to, hey, is there enough PPE for the first responders? To, are there hospital beds that we can use and how are we going to use them the best way? To how do we distribute these vaccines so that we can start to get towards the end of this emergency? And for them to be that reactive that quickly, they needed to be agile. That's where Databricks really came in. We first started with a small project where they were having scaling issues. They came to us. Within 2 weeks, we put that system into production. And then come about March 2021, the way that they were modernizing in the cloud, sort of doing more of a lift and shift from on-prem was just not working out for them. It was brittle, it was failing, and these teams had been working 24/7 for the last 2 years. So they modernized with the Lakehouse, with Databricks. And the one statement that I remember from the architect who was leading this effort was, he said, this will be the first time that my team can take vacation in 2 years. So wow. They were able to drive reports and business intelligence, collect data from regional, from state, at a national level, and generate a dashboard on a daily basis to make decisions on where the vaccines were going to go. And they were distributing this to the regional government, to the state government, and to the President of the United States.
Something that used to take hundreds of hours to do. So what a fantastic example there. We really do appreciate it. Patrick, so much activity going on over there. In respect to every federal cabinet level CIO, we know the deputy CIOs are doing the heavy lifting. Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight, part of that sort of overall composite of modernization activity you have going on over there that has really sort of enabled some of these things that you're pursuing.
Yeah, first I'll just say IT and digital modernization is a whole agency approach. If we're going to upgrade or replace technologies, we just don't want to do it. We want to also look at processes and policies that better support business. So, and overall improve the entire organization. So when we can modernize our business processes and we can implement enabling new technologies, modern technologies that focuses on enhancing the user experience, that removes barriers to service to success. I can give you a good example of that, and is our implementation of a nationwide disability case processing system that essentially consolidated about 52 state disability determination services systems. So we embarked on having one integrated case processing system and migrating 52 states into that one processing system. So you can think about all the benefits of that, but it's not easy. It wasn't easy. It isn't easy. When you have states who are comfortable or familiar with their systems. But today, this is why I think this is very successful. Although we don't have all 52, we have 49 of those states on our system today with a clear plan to migrate the remaining states very soon. And so I think this is a case when you're talking about modernizing and integrating into one system, cloud-based system. I totally agree with everything Guy has been saying. We use cloud, use all the services and the goodness out of cloud as we modernize. But it's also allowed us to look at our business processes because we were able to, develop new in the cloud, and we were able to streamline some business processes as well. So to me, this is one of the ones I see as very successful because it truly is a whole of agency approach to modernize.
What a way to enable so much capability across the country, and hats off to you. I commend you for being able to interact with every one of those states. Undoubtedly, each one of them having its own, we'll call it a journey, right? That you were on to make that happen. So I applaud you and your team for that. Jonathan, how about a BMC software? Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight that really sort of opened up some transformation at one of these agencies?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. We're seeing a theme if you listen across each one of these stories here, and I think I might be adding to the theme. So I want to share a story if I could. It's a pretty large nonprofit research and academic medical center that is located in Florida. It's called Tampa General Hospital. And I think this one's a great example of a few things. Seeing how people are coming together in a pretty collaborative way. They're focusing on delivering innovation. They're focusing on modernizing their organization in a very, very short window to overcome some pretty crazy stuff. Like Park talked about, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about COVID as well. So this is like 3 years ago, I guess COVID hits. The world's kind of turned upside down. Everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out how to manage this thing. And if you think about it, hospitals are essentially at the core of it, right? They're challenged with resources. They're challenged with the equipment that they have, the rooms, the pure numbers of those that have been impacted by this, of course, was devastating, right? So to respond, Tampa General partners with some really smart folks from a company called SME Solutions Group, which I think is based in Tampa, a bunch of technology partners like BMC, and literally dozens of other hospitals, competing hospitals, by the way. I think it was like 50 or 51 hospitals. And they came together, they formed this group, and they said, hey, we need to find a way to come together to share the data that we have and ultimately tap into that data to create insights, to create intelligence that we desperately need to tackle COVID and to save lives, right? So through this collaboration, they were able to create essentially this dashboard that they called the COVID-19 Florida West Coast Regional Data Exchange. That's a mouthful, which basically provides things like real-time info on ventilator counts, the number of ICU rooms that are available, how many patients are impacted. They even went so far as to partner with a few cool tech companies to start forecasting the anticipated number of future COVID patients that they were going to have to deal with over a specified period of time. So if you can imagine insights like this, hospital officials at Tampa General and others could start really making awesome decisions to help patients find the care that they need at the right time, the right place. The problem was underneath that, of course, the underlying technology and the process required to support all this was crazy. We're talking about dozens of workflows across multiple disparate systems, hundreds of data sources from inside and outside the hospitals, constantly gathering new data. They were spending so much time managing jobs, troubleshooting problems, that they actually couldn't deliver it in the short window that they had. And they certainly couldn't do it with confidence and insights that they needed to, right? So to help, they shifted a great deal to great technology partners, again, like Databricks, like Control-M and BMC, for us specifically to monitor and start managing these complex data pipelines. They took out all of that manual intervention. They improved scalability, reliability, performance of their data pipelines, and they were ultimately able to get those insights delivered to the right people each and every day with a high degree of confidence. So again, it's just a really cool story, I think, hopefully to add to the ones that you've already heard, but very relevant to us and a great sign of things to come, I think.
Great example of infusing some technology to really enable the mission. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.